And we're going to get right with the agenda here shortly, but we'll try to get the bills paid. So if you give us a few minutes, we'll get the warrant signed here and checked out. Then we'll start on the agenda.
It's a 4-bed barn. Yeah, all timber. Well, no, it will. It's all timber frame. No, I don't want to start this. We're going to start it like this barn. It's a 4-bed timber frame.
There was a barn there before there was a tree. And I can't remember where it is.
So is it reconciled like the others? Just the pictures in all directions once I got up. It's pretty hard, plus they're narrow, the stairways, and that's why I decided to live up there. We have a lot of railings and things. That's Jesus. You're made to look like
What's the mayor thinks
they're like have a great wood. The corner is big wood. How's that?
Sound like walking out of the house.
Don't say a whole bunch of pictures of
Spires in the four corners are big. That's what they straighten out to the sidewalk. Apparently, I was on my hands and knees. I wouldn't stand up there.
Yeah.
No, what was it?
Oh, I was so good.
28 on the front.
lots of lots. One of them is the Hampton collection. The other one is the Addison collection. There are a few other collections. There are two collections.
Remember that was
What did you see? How old are you? You're looking at couches.
But he's broken his hip. So he's already said, so he goes to fire, so he goes to 70.
Well,
Fire department fuel will be 196.
combined?
What does it all mean?
You will.
Only because the second one's supposed to have. Can I ask you a question? When you split that out like that, isn't it your expectation that that amount is going to be billed to the fire department and show up in their budget line item?
What happens is your system is not very.
Chris, control, sure.
Okay.
Because I don't usually do bills until Friday morning.
So he would put in his own separate for
Don't
70,
put that in.
but only this part should have been charged to yours, because that's what you're authorizing.
Love them.
I can't tell because the budget's big. It's just that the one for the fire department fuel was like $198, so this wasn't making any sense
Yeah,
to
but
me.
probably
Yeah, no, there's nothing like a good dose of hysteria.
That get all charged to highway fuel bills, and that's all charged to highway lines, and just for fire or?
Yeah, I think that they've just wired their website, it seems, so they're better on their stage.
Next time you put that in.
I just got this. I didn't realize I had to charge the office.
At least they're in New York and not Hyderabad.
Right.
But if it had been done this way, up and down, you just like through the floor straight across here.
So in 2 weeks, we should be up to date. And then, Tom, could you make sure we get the adjustment done for the police department? Because we're not showing that they've bought hardly any fuel this year.
Yeah, the problem is why they don't get it, because they don't have an invoice, they don't have invoice enough to charge anything against them. See, because they charged it to them, and it was only a little bit of dollar left.
All that gasoline comes into your tank and the highway department pays for it. So you need to make a calculation so they can get adjusted in the next warrant.
Right, the next one should be all straightened out, I should have an invoice enough to charge the police department. They've been charged more recently than the fire department, so.
Right, but it still seems to be a small amount that's showing on their expense, so I think if you charge them for the rest, as we're going through the budget right now, it'll give us a better handle on where we are.
Right, I'm gonna, right.
Okay.
Should try to, I need to figure out a little bit better way to do this, maybe I'll talk to the accountant about this. So I charge it against the invoice, and then there wasn't enough invoice to charge anything against the police department.
So,
But hopefully by the next one, we'll do it.
I mean, maybe what you need is not worry about the invoices so much as to have a worksheet just to charge them back.
Yeah. I don't know if we, yeah. So you can't.
I'm not looking for perfection, I just want to get up to date while we're going through the budget, so we have.
I'll try to have it up to date by the next one.
Awesome.
I do look at the pennies. It just looked funny because it said 190 and I can see 785 there.
Yeah, it's just the way we have to do it.
Makes sense. This is the one you were just talking about.
All right, we can announce that we're all set to pay the bills for another week. We're just hoping the treasurer has enough money to do it all. All right, first on the agenda is Mr. Poisson. It's probably something really important that I invited you here. Probably has to do with our winter roads account.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a little while ago. So we appropriated 85,000 and 10,700 and some odd $1,000 overdrawn on that account as of what we just signed, right?
That could be, my numbers are 7,000.
Well, with the labor, it comes out to 10,007. I mean, that's what it shows on this
Okay.
expense report.
Maybe there's something, I was wanting to run this. Usually I sit down with the accountant and we go through this, but obviously I don't have a chance to do that until tomorrow, so.
Well, this is
Sometimes their numbers can get off, but yeah, nonetheless, we're somewhere between 7,000 and 10,000 overdrawn right now. And then we have another $9,600, close to $10,000 of materials that we received that we haven't paid, received invoices to pay on yet.
$20,000.
And then this morning I ordered approximately $11,300 worth of materials.
$31,000.
So
And the groundhog saw his shadow, so there was 6 more weeks of winter.
we're somewhere around, my number, if you add all those numbers up, my number comes out to $27,840. And we're in a negative balance of right now.
Because there was like $3,500, $3,700 worth of winter roads overtime labor that was in that warrant, which sounds like the amount of money maybe that we're off.
I thought I had that included, but maybe I made a mistake.
That's fine. I mean, it'll work itself out. It's all money. It's going to be charged to one account or the other, right?
Yeah, winter roads now.
So with the material that you have bought that we haven't got invoices for, and the material that you ordered, I mean, is the salt shed and the sand shed going to be busting out full?
It's, yeah, should be full once we, the material that's ordered, we restock up.
So our inventory should be good with that.
Inventory is good, but it's been a very difficult job this year to keep that thing full. Buying sand every week. We've used, somewhere around 3,500 tons of sand used. Plus there's 500 tons of sand that's, the portion that's not been paid for yet. It's kind of hard to tell how much of that we used because on the pile is. So we use probably 3,500 to 3,600 tons of sand. And what happened with our budget, when we budgeted $23,000 worth of sand, and the sand's $11.50 a ton this year.
Yeah, it's
So
about
we really only budgeted for 2,000 tons of sand.
it's about 20% higher than
Yeah.
what it was last year.
Right, and, we have this discussion over here at budget time. We know we're low, we cross our fingers and pray, and we know that this is the one account that we can overdraw, so we hope for the best, but we didn't get the best this year. So far, so,
A lot of weekend storms, so plenty of overtime.
yeah. The labor, we budgeted around $19,000 for it, we spent 13. So we're good there, but the biggest kick has been the sand. And like I said, it's been, we worked almost every weekend except for a couple.
The winter roads labor that we just had, that was for a 2-week period, right?
Right.
That was like 3,500. So we've got a storm coming that may amount to something or not. And it's hard to imagine that's the last one we'll have. So I was just wondering if your 19 was going to be enough. That's only like $6,000 left.
There's nobody that knows.
I'm
No,
sorry,
no, just,
what was the 19? I'm sorry.
he said he had budgeted in his sub-account 19 for labor,
Right.
for winter roads labor, and he's used 13, that leaves him 6. But if that's 35, and you have 2 more of those, that's gone. It's not a complaint, I'm just thinking ahead that we probably will be needing more money in that account by the time we get to the end of the year.
Seems like some of the biggest snowstorms I ever remember, the last half of February, first part of March. About the time you guys want to head to the woods sugaring.
That's right. Yeah, there's no way to know all that. If we could get more snow, we could fill our material shed this week, and that might be the last time. We can fill it 4 more times.
Let me ask this, September, or the end of last year, the end of winter road, did we have our inventory whittled right down to nothing, or did we carry?
We had, not done nothing, but we were a little lower than we would like to be to start the year with this year.
So there was probably another $10,000 or $12,000 worth of inventory we didn't have going into the year, maybe?
Yeah, it could be. And we had, the liquid de-icer that was depleted pretty much. So we budgeted $1,000 for that, but we actually spent $3,600 this year only because some of these expenses have started at the beginning of the year, beginning of the season of winter roads. So like a liquid de-icer, we buy it one side, we get a much better price if we buy enough gallons, which works out. It usually works out so you don't have to buy it in a couple of years by doing that.
So,
if you buy it in December, you're taking a chance that you're going to get some, spend a little more on that. So that's the other thing that we're going to know on is compost. We're compost this year. We spent like $5,700. $5,700 in compost just to stay good.
And they can be charged to winter roads, their winter road expense.
So, well, we've got a special town meeting that we're lining up for March 10th. So, your crystal ball, as we get closer to that special town meeting tonight, our crystal balls being in March, it seems though it should be clearer.
Clear on what happens between now and next time.
Between now and next March 10th?
Clear between now and next time. Well, I don't know what happens after next time.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. And hopefully, we'll also come in a time of year where sometimes, some years, we start losing less sand after snowstorms or such, because if you're fortunate enough, the sun comes out, the sun's a bit higher, so we'll better job of things like that, such as today, things like that. Story,
So Mary, I came in last week and Mary was asking me to punch some numbers in. So for Article 6, I picked out 72,600, only because we had $322,600 worth of free cash. I said, we'll punch in a number so it brings us down to 250, just for that was way high.
Mhm.
But if you're saying we got $30,000 worth of bills, I mean, we're 10,000 over, we're gonna be about 30,000 overdrawn.
Right. Compared to this.
Now, if we put it in the roads, we get to the end of the year. You know, that kind of, should we be, since it's the one account we could straighten out in June, should we be less aggressive with that number so we don't end up with money in the account and can't get it back out of that roads account?
We look at it back out if it was spent it.
No, but I meant to use it for something else, other than making it be free cash.
I guess my idea was that if we can keep that account zero, it's gotta be paid. You know, if you went to the end of if you went past July 1st, when the auditors did your audit for the Department of Revenue, they would just dock your free cash even though you didn't vote.
Oh, yeah, we have
For
to
next
pay
year,
it
they
before the end
Right.
of June.
But I just felt that if we moved a bunch of money, at least enough money in there, what we could guess would be enough money, is that you would be tempted to spend it on something else for next year's budget, the way we use free cash.
Well, and if it's being used up quickly, I suppose we get more than 2 storms, at the end of the season, he can use it to order more sand, salt, and whatever that gets you a head start on next year's winter roads, right? We've done that in prior years.
I mean, we're 3 weeks away from town meeting, so, but it doesn't, last week, when I said 72,600, I thought that was a foolish number, but you're making me think it may not be anywhere near as foolish.
I hope it doesn't slow it down there, unless we got everything. It's all no problem.
Big club, we should order jackets, right? Bad enough. But, may not work out that way. What, anything else you got for us? You're well manned. Yes.
Yeah, we're good, we got a little short today, because I'm sick and something like that. Well, another issue, we do have a broken plows today. I haven't even had a chance to go down there to see.
What? Is that on a new truck or an old truck? Is it
On
on?
the little flat.
Oh, really?
The plow's not a problem with that anyway, we should have purchased a new plow, we purchased a truck. After this, by next year, we're gonna have to do it.
You getting your budget pulled together to, when's our appointment on that? Is it next week? I'm just trying to press it.
So,
Yeah, well, hopefully next week we'll have it.
so depending how much money is left in the winter roads after we appropriate a larger sum, sand, salt, plow bags, anything to get a head start on the next year, is to just leave it. Because it's an expense we're gonna have to pay anyway, just a matter of which budget.
I think what's important was a little bit of what Tom started out saying, is that we've been under budgeting winter roads. You know, we budgeted this at a lower value because we can overdraw it. And, I mean, looks to me that list you emailed today, Tom, I mean, even last year was, that was $90,000, and 12 was an extremely late year, that was $68,000. But then in 11, that was $95,000, so.
Right.
You know, I mean,
It's a very big fluctuation. It's very small, obviously. We just don't know. But the one thing we do know is that you say that under budget on certain items, sand. This, I pulled this out of file today, I should need to update this one. We got a thing here from 08, 09, 10, and fiscal year 11. And that 4-year average there, we used 4,500 tons of sand, 4-year average. Another big year, part of that is because in 08, we used 6,700 tons. The line was 300 tons. Some years we only used 3,000 tons. And the budget for 2,000, it's a little more realistic.
and then you take this year where the price of sand went up 20%.
Fortunately, salt thing was lower, sand actually lower. I don't know why, one of the vendors that's been for the last few years on the ocean, did good this year. I'm not sure why. They just short sale or something. So salt's going on in Northfield.
Knew it was going to be a bad winter and went to Bermuda.
That's the idea, sure.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, there's nothing we can control about the weather.
We're trying to decide, we're trying to kind of ration the salt because we are experiencing a shortage of salt. It's very tough to get, so we don't come there.
Well, I guess that's my question. Not that I'm questioning your judgment or what the guys are doing out there, but in hindsight, do you think that you've over-applied any material?
No, I don't think so. I don't know if you would think that if you drove down the road after you went off, you see what soil on it. You have to buy those sweepers, so you're all stuck up. Now it's just been all these little nuisance storms, ice. No, I think they've been doing good. It's recreation rates
Is there anything else for this we can buy in bulk that would save the budget money besides what you already do?
It's just these, there's something to it. Maybe 3 days, I don't know what it is, 3 days in a row, you got an inch of snow. That's very expensive. You better have that 1 day with a foot. 6 inches.
Get it over with.
There's sand day after day after day, and sand. It's just like this morning. Sand all over this morning. You had 6 inches, it would have been.
You would have felt like it, and you would have felt like you'd done something.
Exactly, that's the worst.
No, I mentioned to you last week that I noticed that, you know, I felt that the Ashfield roads were perfectly passable, but it amazed me when I crossed town lines that the amount of material they must be using to try to peel down.
Right, we're using a lot of salt, we're trying to actually salt it down.
I mean, and it's not that the Ashfield road wasn't what I considered perfectly passable. All right. Anything else for Tom that you can think of?
Just thank you for all your hard work.
Well, make sure you tell the guys that we appreciate the work that
I
they're doing.
will.
So, last week we had our first budget meeting, and we were just starting to make a list of things that we're thinking of. So, you're going to have something on the list. Backhoe, thinking backhoe or truck?
Well, it's kind of between the two things.
So if we were thinking in the back of our head on either one of those, would we be thinking a nice round number like 100,000?
The truck is looking like probably around 170.
I beg your pardon?
Probably 170 if it's a truck. It's a backhoe.
And what was the backhoe roughly?
Probably around 100. Maybe a little less.
You buy a new truck, you put a new body on it, wouldn't you? I'm saying,
Yeah, backwards. We've got trucks that need a new body now.
well, that's something that we're gonna have to look at to try to decide how to prioritize.
Right. Yeah, we're gonna, almost ready to get into that, but I don't know, I have a problem on that, so which one we think?
Which truck would be replaced? The one that you had to put the clutch in, or the one that's older than that?
What's older than that? It's a 1994 Ford.
A mere 20 years old.
Yeah.
I wonder what its trading value is.
Close your eyes, what do you see?
20-year-old, we've been doing our trucks at 20-year intervals, and that's getting to be a little bit harder to do than it used to be. 20 years ago, you could keep a truck for 20 years, a little easier than you can, or maybe I should say 40 years ago, but.
40 years ago, they were made out of something a little more meaningful than that.
Exactly. When I first came to town, my oldest truck was, when I first went to work in town, it was 1968.
1968, and it had hydraulic brakes.
Yep.
It didn't work all that good.
If you have, no, it didn't.
You put the plow down and stop it.
Well, if you're turning around and backing around in a dirt road to get crossways of the road or something, so the motor could load you, you accidentally tunked the tree with the bumper, it didn't do anything. You go to one of these trucks, you just don't kick the bumper, it caves it back, you don't think I'm gonna bad thing right in. It's not the same.
The good old days.
Yeah.
Well, we made quite a long list last week, so we'll have to kind of prioritize and come up with something.
Good.
My personal opinion, while you and Alan are trying to work on it, and I'm sure you will have discussions, is that when something goes bad, you can generally hire a backhoe, but you can't always hire a truck that's all set to go plow.
Yeah.
You can't ever do that, so.
Yeah. Well, hopefully by next week I'll have all this information for you.
Out of curiosity, have you heard anything, a new report on the grader?
No, not in the report.
It's still incognito somewhere.
It's being made in Brazil, supposedly because of the emissions on the engines. Caterpillar went from tier, I think it's tier 3 interim, they went to, instead of tier 4 interim, they decided to go to tier 4 final. So they had to retool the production lines, which caused most production lines to be shut down for quite a period of time. So they went behind on, this is just on motor graders they're doing this, and so we'll put everything behind, but that's the reason. At least that's what they're telling me.
The exhaust is going to be so updated, there's not going to be any smoke, it's going to be cappuccinos or something that come out of the pipe.
We're talking about rancher, not real big deep snow.
Yeah, you haven't taken the old one out at all.
No.
Yeah, you don't want to break that just a few days before you trade it in. It'd be a bad day. All right, Tom.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right. Let's have Jody.
Okay. All right, what I have to say is a complete change in the register of speech, because I need to tell a little bit of a story, and I'm going to read. This is my first time at a select board meeting, and although I was married in this town in 1970, and I'm married into an old family, I haven't been to select board meetings, but now I live here full time, so here I am.
And here you are. So you sent us this nice letter about to get an appointment, being concerned about the use of the steeple. So.
Okay, and I'm talking to the two of you because I know you've been up and down and around and talked about this issue for a very long time. You have a lot of background information about it. And I don't know how much information other people have here, but I'm here to talk to you. I
Sure.
scripted
No.
this. Okay,
Yeah,
so.
you absolutely should be.
Okay, this is your bedtime story. I am here tonight because 11 days ago, Chris Gray emailed me about his commendable project to increase internet connectivity in Ashfield. He asked me for input regarding ways to minimize the aesthetic impact of the antennas. Word must have reached him about my interest in the town hall steeple. As it turns out, I've been doing research on its history in relation to the reconstruction in the mid-1980s. Although I have published as a historian, I'm not an architectural historian. However, I have become very excited by the results of my research. So I'm going to flip back to some of the early history and then fast forward. In May, at the outset of my project, I was unable to find a credible source identifying the town hall architect, other than references to English architect Christopher Wren, who died in 1723. I was put in touch with architectural historian Joseph Cornish at the Massachusetts Historical Commission. The architect, he said, was Asher Benjamin. Asher Benjamin? I said to myself. None of the literature about Ashfield's town hall and the steeple refers to Asher Benjamin. Cornish told me that the steeple design is based on plate 27 of the very first style book published in America to be written by an American architect. So this is not a building that was designed by an English architect. It's a building that was designed by an American architect. And Asher Benjamin's, the design for this building appears in Asher Benjamin's The Country Builder's Assistant, containing a collection of new designs of carpentry and architecture which will be particularly useful to country workmen in general. Really long title. You would not put a book with that long a title now. Okay. It was published in 1797 in Greenfield.
In Greenfield.
In Greenfield, right. That's what I said. Greenfield? So close to Ashfield. Builder John Ames modified the design somewhat. I'm talking about the steeple especially. A common practice at that time. Looking further, I found out that Benjamin is credited with spreading the federal style of architecture into the American countryside. The architect of Town Hall is an American architect. He did the design, and he's more important than anyone knew. Tonight, I share my newly acquired knowledge with key people at a point when decisions are being made about proposed changes to the profile of the steeple. We all know how beautiful the steeple is and how significant a symbol of the town, and how significant it is, excuse me, as a symbol of the town. Many people know that in the mid-1980s, the town cared so much about the steeple that it was taken to the ground and rebuilt by a crew of volunteers with expenses covered by a town-wide fund drive. For these efforts, the volunteers received an award recognizing their outstanding preservation achievement from the state of Massachusetts at a ceremony at Harvard's Memorial Hall. What can we do to make sure that we are not making a mistake? I have looked carefully at the enhanced photographs Chris Gray generously allowed me to see, and I know you've seen them too. The photos he shared with the select board and other town committees did not show the dark shadows such large panels would create. I suppose we could go so far as to place mock-ups up on the steeple to see how it really looks. That would be one approach. Chris told me he tried to create a 3D mesh, but has not yet had success. So the images that you saw do not show what it would really look like.
With the sun. With the sun.
With the sun, yeah. And they're taken from a distance. I wonder if the town could engage someone to do a sophisticated computer-generated CAD presentation of the antennae so that the impact of shadows would, which would significantly, so we could see the impact of these shadows that would significantly affect the look of additions of this proposed scale and location. So I'm here to ask, can we slow down and see if there's an alternative? I completely agree there is a need in the town to extend internet connectivity. I appreciate, I'm sure everybody does in this room, Chris Gray's ingenuity, and I hope that he and all of us can use even more ingenuity to take this proposal a step further. I appreciate the time and effort that so many people have put into this project. I'm trying to step lightly, but I do wonder if placing antennae of this size on Ashfield's most historically significant and beautiful piece of architecture is in the best interest of the town. So thank you for listening, and I did took some photocopies of the Country Builder's Assistant, the front page, and plate 27, which is shows the steeple, and significant modifications were made. And I also included some of my excuse me, communication from Joe Cornish regarding the historical and significance of the building.
Great.
With my research.
Make sure they get them at the desk.
The original size was, I went to the Library of Congress and printed this out. Of course, I could have gone to Memorial Hall at the old Deerfield and Joe Cornish also designed that building. Yeah, this is the original style.
Do you have any questions, or? I think it's very good. I mean, brought us up to date. Have been talking about this for 2 months, maybe a little bit more, and this is really kind of the first that we've heard anybody say, whoa.
Well, of course, the Ashfield News didn't include anything for January, and the Rinko Recorder, from what I've heard, has only had a small amount of information out there. Again, I'm new to town, so.
No, it's fine.
I've heard the name Sir Benjamin before. You seem to know a bit about it. Could you just elaborate just a little?
Oh, well, he was born in Springfield, and he early on took an interest in ionic columns, and he actually worked for Charles Voltage for a little while, I think in a Hartford building, and it totally consumed him, and he became an architect. He settled in Greenfield, and there are churches and buildings up and down the eastern seaboard that he did. His most important buildings are probably, oh gosh, now I'm gonna. There's a house in Greenfield, the African American Meeting House in Boston, the Charles Street Meeting House. Those are considered to be some of his best buildings.
Thank you.
And he's also thought to have founded the first school of architecture in America.
The addition of what Chris is proposing isn't the first addition that the steeple has seen. I mean, the biggest, I would think, would be the siren that was put up there. I don't know if we know what date that was. Huh? That was before our time, wasn't it, Dale?
That was in the early 50s.
I know that, I wonder if the original construction, would you happen to know in your research, did the original construction include the bell that's up there now?
Oh, you know, my focus has been on the reconstruction in
Right.
the 80s. And so for the last 8 months, I've been researching that. It's a really big story. So I only got into Benjamin Asher because I kept going, Christopher Wren. I said, wait a minute, he died in 1723. How could he be? And then I started going into that and got in touch with Joe Cornish. So as far as when the bell went up and all that, I don't really know. But I think more significantly is that these panels that would be mounted on the sides of the columns, the visible columns are 12 feet long, as you know. The panels Chris is proposing are 51 inches in length, and they would be mounted near the top of 3 of the columns. They are a little less than 12 inches wide, and they're 5 inches deep, but once you have an attachment on the back, it's going to maybe have a...
5 inches includes some attachment.
Includes, like, 5 inches deep. So one would go on the east facing, you know, all the east, west, and north, and so the thing is, the sun on June 21st, as it's coming over, say, Mike Skalsky's house, is going to hit those panels. And the other important thing to know, as I'm sure you know, is that the columns are octagonal, and they have 8 facets, and each facet is a little more than 2 inches. So these panels are going to be, there's going to be a really, really deep shadow. And they're going to be, there are 8, you know, everything is 8 above the tower. 8 columns, 8 sides to the belfry roof, 8 sides to the upper balustrade, 8 lantern windows, 8 sides to the ogee roof. And then there's the squarish pedestal and then the round urn. So these tall, slender columns with their beautiful arches above, the red architrave above that. And it creates this open, spacious, beautiful space. So I'm not so concerned about what's on the roof of the tower. What I'm talking about is these splendid, slender columns. And they're very important because what's above is like this cake, really, bunch of solid masses that would, they need these airy columns. They need the open space in order, because it's this lumpy, dumpy in a way thing above it. It's beautiful, all the lines and everything is classically proportioned. And that's another reason why Asher Benjamin is important. Asher Benjamin based his designs on people actually went to Rome and Greece and unearthed the Pompeii ruins, and they they looked at classical proportions and they said, oh, every single line matters to create a work of art, which is the steeple. And that is what makes me concerned, is the proposal here is to bump out some big things. And I think it will really affect the lines of the beautiful steeple. Everybody agrees it's a beautiful steeple. I just have been staring at it for the last 8 months. I talked to somebody who said, well, it sounds interesting, Jody, but I haven't really looked at that steeple very much at all. And I'd have to go look at it tomorrow morning to come into this meeting with you. But, I've been living with it every day.
Sure. No,
you do too. I mean, some people look at these things and some don't. I know that.
In time to question, it is before it's all attached, not after. So,
Pardon me, sorry.
I said the time to question all of this is before everything's attached, not after.
I only learned about it because Chris had the kindness to email me 11 days ago.
Sure. No, Chris has been very upfront, giving us a lot of information. It's trying to fill a need. So, but I guess that was what you're talking about on the outside is. I guess I was referring to, that there have been additions to the steeple. I mean, there's an antenna on the back of
but
it.
it's very small compared to this.
But there's a line to be drawn, right? Drawn, at least to be thought of. Anything else?
Her suggestion of a mock-up of putting something there to see what it would look like, and it could be made out of cardboard, I suppose, and strapped on just to see what it looks like to deal with the issue of what does it look like.
Well, I guess one of the things that I've noticed the last couple of weeks driving around is there's a lot of these types of antenna that are mounted all up and down the valley. I mean, I was in Lake George today, and I noticed them on some buildings that were all just, I hadn't even recognized them before, or even noticed that they were there, but now that I'm looking around, I'm looking up more just to see what I can notice. They don't seem to stick out a lot, but who knows how it's going to look on this particular building. Certainly they're going to make a bigger impression on some people than they will on others. It's a whole bunch of people I notice walk around with their head down at their feet. So, Mary, now the other thing that relates generally to this is Stuart was in to see you last week about the steeple.
About the steeple.
You want to share that?
He's estimating that the steeple needs to be rebuilt in place pretty quickly. He's concerned about the condition, and he's requesting $85,000 from this year's budget for that business.
Not asking for much. You say it's fast.
No volunteers this time?
Well, there may have to be. There may have to be. So we'll have to get Stuart. in
I think the
some-
fact that it will be done in place makes a difference in terms of volunteers.
Yes, right. We're not going to be bringing it down on the ground for a 6-foot fall. So, anybody else want to speak to this?
Historical note, one of the other things that's up there, in addition to the Sire platform, is the Bell Ringer, which is a cream separator being run backwards that was put up there about 1920s. And I prepared it myself, but that's one of the other things up there.
Made out of a washing machine and an old car part.
No,
It's
the motor was washing machine,
Okay.
the device itself is a cream separator.
Yeah, it's a cream separator.
Cream separator.
Yankee ingenuity.
Yeah.
Probably Robert and I, that was a good way to introduce those old Delco generators, right? Run some knob and tube up there and get it going.
Seems really a very good history book.
Well, that was before the section they're working on. Well, very good. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Yes, sir.
Jim Wagner, I'm from St. Thomas Church.
Oh, okay.
Buildings and Grounds Committee. Everybody remember Great Hawk Wireless? When Great Hawk was in town, they periodically updated people about their progress, when they were still making some progress. And one time they said, boy, there sure are a lot of committees up at Town Hall. And I responded, oh, they were interested in seeing too.
They were trying to do the same thing.
And long story short, we offered them the tower at St. Thomas Church. And at the time, in fact, they had some questions about access, whether there was internal access to climb up there or whatnot. And I climbed up there in the winter 3 years ago, and a whole series of pictures. And I would imagine that offer is probably still stands if you decide not to mess this up. I mean, nobody wants internet worse than the people in Apple Valley want to get through it. Every time they get it. But anyway, I would say that their offer is probably still on the table. I mean, I'm assuming that this project will take its own length. Maybe we get free internet church out of it. That's all I hope for Great Hawk.
Well, I know one of the big things is that Ashfield, the town hall is set up to be one of the first places hot with the fiber optic that's going to make this all work. So, but it's fine. Anybody else to just talk about this subject before we move on to something else?
I just have one question, and this is kind of a technical question, so I hope I'm not wasting people's time. The panels, there's 3 panels, right, designed to be on 3 of the columns pointing outward, right?
There's another set in the upper balcony.
Okay, is there a performance degradation if they're on the inside of the column?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the answer to my question.
So I should clarify, the renderings that I made were what I was considering the worst case scenario, where we needed 2 separate bands and full 360-degree coverage with both of those bands. So we would need 3 of the 27-inch tall panels and 3 of the 51-inch tall panels. And the renderings that were made were with that maximum amount. Since I have not been able to go up and do any empirical noise floor testing yet, or empirical, just signal tests from various locations, I cannot very well say what is necessary in order to provide decent coverage and where. I know that I can provide coverage, and I know that I can provide coverage to a decent amount of people, but I can't really put a number on exactly how many or which antennas or what size. I'm doing as many simulations as I can, but I need to validate those tests or those simulations before I or to do anything. So in the event where it was suggested that I do put a mock-up up, the large panel is not something that I would plan to do for some time. And so I wouldn't want to take the effort to actually put a mock-up of a large antenna up there until it was something that appeared it might be necessary or useful. It may not even be useful. And if you just think about the necessity for 360-degree coverage, there's a huge landmass right behind here, which clearly we don't need to be sending in there. So as the system is understood better and tweaked as to how it works in this particular location, I'll get a better sense of exactly what size antennas. And again, the idea here is these are the largest antennas that I could use. And so if I presented that to the necessary committees and they thought that that was appropriate, that then I knew within the envelope what I could work with. And although I don't have, I didn't put any shadowing in, that was also specifically noted to each of the committees I presented the images to, because I didn't have the necessary ability to do that.
No, and I think you were really upfront with us when you showed us those pictures, when you brought them to us. I mean, you told us that what they included and what they didn't include.
Right.
I remember you saying you really felt that that was the best you could figure, that was going to be a worst case scenario was what you were showing us. All right, anything else, Paula? Thank you for letting us know how you feel and what's the research you've done. I think that's very helpful. Thank you. All right. Mary is
From Mary Hillary.
yeah. Is she here?
I didn't see her here.
Okay.
I did not have any chance to confirm today, but we talked before when she needed to change it, so.
Okay. Well, we can move on to Doug because Doug's here.
I wasn't expecting to come tonight.
I know, I gave you a hard time about it last week. I told you.
I went to Hampshire County community meetings the other night, and I thought that when we did that, and we asked me to do it, this was going to be something that would help Ashfield and move us on. It's not. It is something that I want us to spend money on.
So
what it is there are 16 towns in Hampshire County. 9 of them, I think you've got, somewhere you've got this.
Did you get the starts card?
Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
Okay, the first page that you got there is what they call Hilltown Mutual Group, Aid Group.
I got it. No, she has it.
Okay. And then they have Hampshire County Mutual Aid Group. There are 2 different men, and they do not work together. It's a mess. What they want to do is to get money to maintain 4 towers. And they want Ashfield to give money to them due to the fact that we have Highland ambulance. I talked to Chief Haskins, and Ashfield pays a unit price for Highland ambulance to use tri-state mutual aid radios. And they're in Highlands vehicles, both of them. And I think they said there was one in the station. Yeah. And when Highland is en route to Ashfield, they're on tri-state mutual aids radios, not Hampshire County at all.
When they come to Ashfield.
But they come to Ashfield. So actually the ambulance, the only time they use that radio is when our dispatch center calls Northampton Control to tone off Highland. And what I mean by that is, when 911 call comes in to Shelburne Control, they automatically hit a button and it goes to Northampton Control. They tone out Highland Ambulance. That's on Hampshire County's frequency. And then Highland Ambulance comes on to the tri-state mutual aid frequency, it stays on for Ashfield. They do not do nothing else. So what, and the thing that I am so bothered about is that these 6 towns, they're the ones that want to have the radios, the antennas, and the towers fixed. All the rest of them, they won't pay for it. Like Franklin County, if you go to the last page on that, you'll see where Franklin County pays for every single town and city in Franklin County. Even Greenfield, who does not, they have their own dispatch center, Orange and Turner's. But they still pay to maintain the towers. On the second page there, you'll find Northampton, East Hampton, Amherst, South Hadley, Granby, Ware. They all dispatch themselves. And they're saying point blank, they will not pay to maintain the antenna of the radios. So what I'm saying is, why should Ashfield pay that we don't use? If
How much money are we talking about?
$1,000 a year.
And this, I guess, I want to back up to a few months ago, when we were talking about radios with the fire department, and talking about when we were out in Spruce Corner on using Hampshire County's antennas, right? And the whole deal was that it would have to go to Northampton, and then Northampton would go to Shelburne.
I think Bill's got.
Well, I see one guy shaking his head no, and I see one guy shaking his head yes, but that's the discussion we had.
The discussion we had is, we can go to their radios, go up to Spruce Corner, and go off their towers, go through Nottinghamton. Bill's gonna talk a little more about the Plainfield Tower, which might solve a lot of that problem.
I also want to point out how Franklin County decides who gets charged for use of our system and who doesn't.
Right. No, I'm just, where I'm going with this is that using that Hampshire County radio deal over there, because that works in Spruce Corner where Franklin County doesn't. That was the discussion we had last summer. But we're talking exactly the same thing. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but when Hilltown Ambulance comes here, they're doing the exact thing, just opposite. They're going to they're using Franklin counties, and then it's going to Northampton.
No. It's going to our dispatcher or to Dell's.
The only thing Highland has, it needs to be toned out. We don't have that tone capability to Franklin County. Once they get toned out from Northampton on Hampshire County, then they go to Franklin County radio and say they're responding, and all letters are there done when it's on Franklin County. We pay, I think it's $14,000 a year for them to use our radios. The town pays for that. Do you use all, is it 14?
No, it's not. Maybe 1,400.
Oh, 1,400?
14.
We got there.
That's an easy.
Is it 14?
1,400.
Well, we pay for their radios. The rules is if any Hampshire County wants to come to Ashfield and wants a radio, I guess they can use our radios. We're not going to charge them for it, as long as it's mutual aid. But with the ambulance isn't considered mutual aid, the ambulance is considered our ambulance.
See, they're not talking about the mutual aid for us using their radios for mutual aid, Tom. This is what's weird. They're just talking about Highland Ambulance being toned out and being primary to Ashfield, which it is. But further as mutual aid is concerned, They don't care about that, and all the rest of the county towns will pay for that. So that's why I'm saying, why should we pay for it if the rest of the Hampshire County towns and cities are not going to pay for it? They've already said they will.
I'm having a hard time following the discussion. I guess I need a flow chart or something, so I understand how this whole radio thing becomes such a major.
If I told, let's say, if we call 911, it goes, we call it a PSAP. It goes to Shelburne Control in the State Police Barracks in Shelburne. They'll say, I need an ambulance at such and such a street in Ashfield. They push a button. It goes straight to Northampton, so the Northampton Control hears exactly what I'm saying to Shelburne Control. And that's over the telephone. Then Northampton Control will tone out Highland Ambulance on Hampshire County Radio for the town of Ashfield and a certain place to go. The minute Highland comes on the air, they switch to Franklin County's radios. They do not have any more to do with Hampshire County radios at all. And this is what they're asking Ashfield to pay.
To pay for what? To pay for?
Toning off Highland Ambulance through Hampshire County.
Not improving coverage, not doing any of that.
And no mutual aid, if our people all go to Hampshire County, they're not asking for us to pay for that. Or if mutual aid comes this way, we don't pay for that.
If they're looking for towns to pay money, what are they trying to do with that money that they don't have? Or are we going to lose something if everybody doesn't pay? Or are they trying to improve something if we pay?
See, Franklin County got the big grant to build brand new radios, put new towers up, and that is what we're paying every year, to maintain and upgrade those towers and radio system. This is what all of a sudden they decided they ought to do. The Massachusetts State Police have been doing this in Hampshire County.
Have been doing what?
Maintaining these towers and the radio system. They're saying they're not going to no more.
Bill,
So
your arm's gonna fly off.
Yeah, let me just clarify. The radio system in Franklin County is own lock, stock, and barrel of the Franklin County Council of Governments. State police owns the dispatcher. Council of Governments owns all the radio equipment, maintains.
Who supports the dispatch?
State.
State police.
But the state, the radios, everything beyond the building, is
Communication.
owned and operated and maintained by the Council of Governments. We charge towns and services that are in Franklin County. So for instance, the Sheriff's Department pays for the maintenance of the radio, in addition to every fire department, every ambulance, every police department. If there is a service that's located out of Franklin County that is the primary service for a town, then they are charged. Like Highland, Amherst Ambulance is charged because they take care of Leverett and Shutesbury, I think. So we charge them. So it is only those services which are primary suppliers to towns in Franklin County that will get charged. Now, of the 6 towns that are involved in Highland Ambulance, only Ashfield is in Franklin County. So only Ashfield, I mean, everybody pays into Highland Ambulance, but only Ashfield has to pay an extra radio charge for their ambulance. It would be the same as if the ambulance was parked here. In fact, it's parked in Goshen, but they are our primary service provider.
So we pay Franklin County.
we pay Franklin County Highlands fee. It just worked out easier that way than sending the bill to Highlands, having Highlands send us. They just send us the bill, we pay it. It's a done deal. There are many other services outside of Franklin County who have our radios, but they are all mutual aid. They only come in here when we ask them. And that goes to Berkshire County, it goes to Hampshire, it goes to Vermont in some cases, because when they come in, we want to be able to talk to them. We do not charge any of those services for mutual aid. They can have the radios, they can use it when they come into Franklin County. But the state police pays for the dispatch center, council of government pays for, maintains, insures, all that, and the entire radio system in Franklin County. The talk that we had having to do with using Hampshire County's radios is to stop that measure. There was a workaround because we had coverage problems in the southwest corner of Ashfield. In a few minutes I'll talk about what we're doing about that. But I don't, it was, you know, an emergency kind of thing until we could come up with a solution. You know. But as far as us paying for Hampshire's towers, that would be insane. It would be like asking our mutual aid people to pay for our towers. We just don't do it. Nobody does it. And of the 6 towns that Highland serves, 5 of them are in Hampshire County. If they want to pay for their own radio, by God, I think they should. Because if nobody else is going to maintain them, they have to get money somewhere. But to ask us, is the only point of a run by an ambulance that use Hampshire County towers is just the initial toning of the ambulance. To say, hey guys, we got a call, go here. That's the end of our use of Hampshire County radio.
So they don't go back on Hampshire County if they grab somebody and head to Cooley Dickens?
Exactly.
Yes,
All
no,
their-
yes or no?
They do not. All of their communications after the initial toning, which is the only thing we can't do, the only thing we can't do, is Franklin County radio. Our system. So they get toned, they switch their radios to Franklin County, and everything else is done through our dispatch.
So is it the state police that tone them off at the dispatch in Northampton?
That's correct.
So this $1,000 isn't paying somebody to hit the button?
No. No. That's state police takes care of. They have a link up.
So the $1,000 is they're trying to get out of Ashfield is to maintain their system.
That's
And
correct.
we're already paying to maintain this system.
Right. And it's to maintain their system, which we basically don't use. Which we basically do not use.
It was very disturbing when I started listening to these things. Because one chief was saying one thing, everybody, 5 or 6 towns are going to pay. The other chief is saying all the rest of the towns won't pay.
So it sounds like your recommendation is we don't need to get too wound up about it.
We don't need to, they sent me an email just today of a contract for us to sign, we will pay for all this. And their charge for it, which was, it was $16,000, and our share would be $1,042 to do this. And it's a situation.
Well, none of the other towns on the list are going to pay.
Just this first list.
Yeah, but none of them are going to pay.
They will. They have to.
Those are the highlight.
Those will pay. The ones on the second page in black, they're not going to pay. But they're in Hampshire County. They don't want to pay their own to upgrade and keep their own system.
It would be like us putting up a toll on all the road and charging people
they don't get the money.
The way the budget's going, I'm listening to you, Bill, let's explain that.
If they don't get all the money they need, it sounds like something isn't going to be maintained. And if that something isn't maintained, what is the detriment, if any, to us? Even not for the initial call from their system to the ambulance?
That's done by state police.
Neither Hampshire County nor the state police or anybody else is going to allow their system to go down. They can't do it. And what they're trying to do is, I'll use the word, extort $1,040 from Ashfield to use their own piece of it. Every town in Ashfield pays, even those towns that only use the system a small amount. Bay State Ambulance pays because they use the system. The sheriff's office pays because every once in a while they use the system. They have a sheriff out, somebody's out in the field they need to call, but they have their own frequencies, which they use on their own, but every so often they want to use that. They pay. They pay based on the population of the entire county. Greenfield pays us. They don't use the system at all. And the only other people who pay are Amherst Ambulance and Highland Ambulance, because they are primary suppliers to towns in the county. Other people have the radio system. We don't charge them because when they come in, we need to talk to them, and it's a benefit to us. And they don't charge us when we go mutual aid to them. If we have Hampshire radios, we use them when we're doing mutual aid to them. But the idea that we're supposed to maintain two different sets of radio systems is crazy.
Who sent you this contract?
Hampshire County Regional Council. No, I'll take it back. It was not. It's, yes, it is Hampshire Council Radio.
Yeah, well, I would think we pay our dues, I don't have a problem replying to them, that we pay our dues to Franklin County, and they need to take it up with them.
That's what they just sent me this morning.
Has been authorized by the Western Region Homeland Security Council.
Well,
I'll tell you, I'm a little simple-minded at times, but I cannot believe in 2014 that radio communication is so complicated.
It's not.
Well, it certainly sounds like it, because we talk about it 3 or 4 times during the year, and I get totally confused every time.
Well, this got me so confused when I sat there listening to these guys down there talking about this, when this chief is over here that's representing 8 or 9 towns and saying, I'm not going to pay for this because I don't use it except for mutual aid. And then they got another chief of these few towns and saying, well, we're going to pay for it. And Ashfield's going to pay the secondary.
So
Half of it.
is Bernie one of the movers and shakers?
He's the big mover.
He's the big mover and shaker. So if I go talk to Bernie and ask him to explain it to me, that we play a little song and dance.
When you're asking him,
Yes, it
who
will.
owns these towers now?
What's that?
Who owns these towers now? Is it
State police at this time. No.
the towers are owned by all kinds.
Yeah. There's a tower on
So
Steel
it's not
Mountain.
as organized as where you said for owns.
Well, we don't own the radios. We have towers that we own, we have towers that towns own, we have towers that individuals own, we have towers that Northeast Utility owns. Everybody does MOUs to put antennas up on various towers. And, so you find space where you can. We have towers as far away as Mount Toby. We have Warden Mountain.
What about this?
Nothing on the town hall steeple.
No, it's not up here yet.
No, not yet.
But the towers in Hampshire County, for your benefit, is up on Skinner, not Skinner, up on Mount Hoyer. That is owned by South Hadley and Hadley. There's one on Lincoln Mountain, which is owned by Amherst. There's one in Goshen Fire Station that's owned by Goshen. And the one up here in Plainfield is Western Mass Selectboard.
I really don't need the history of all the towers, but I'm telling you that it's seems way confusing, and it must take a tremendous amount of energy and a lot of people's time, especially towns that are on the border of one county to the other. I mean, Ashfield cannot be the only town that finds itself betwixt and between, is it?
No, no, it's
I
not.
mean, how about Whately?
But they're not saying anything about those other towns.
Whately uses both Frank County.
Yeah, they always lose Franklin County, but they go mutual aid to Hampshire.
Mutual aid goes everywhere. Whately doesn't pay anybody except Franklin County, because that's their primary radio for all of their services.
You pay the primary, and everything else is...
Right, everything else is mutual aid, and with mutual aid, there's no charges back and forth. That's just the nature of mutual aid.
So is HCOG just trying to get this radio system somehow organized in a way it hasn't been? Because they're talking about, you know, FCC licenses and
See, this is the thing, Paul. It took Franklin County 2 to 3 years to get this system up and rolling.
We consolidated everything. Franklin Regional Council of Governments owns all the radio equipment. Forget about what towers are. It owns the radio equipment. It owns all the FCC licenses. Everything is concentrated in one spot. It has a committee which meets monthly, which oversees the operation and maintenance of the entire system. And the system stretches counties away. We have towers in Berkshire and in Hampshire and in Franklin and all over the place. But the service is the 26 towns of Franklin County, and even towns that have their own frequencies and their own dispatch centers still pay into Franklin County radio system. They pay an assessment.
See, this is what
trying to
they're
figure
saying.
out what HCOG's trying to do. It sounds like they're trying to organize this.
They are, but they want to do it in 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, we met the 10th. Now they want to have all this signed and all this done, boom. They took
So
Franklin County.
they're actually trying to do something more than just get $1,000.
They're trying to duplicate what we've done. And it's not going to work because they're so scattered. And,
I wonder if they've been working on this for...
Just the nature of Hampshire County.
well, half their towns left their council of governments a couple of years ago after the first contract was over. So they don't even represent all of Hampshire County.
I think maybe that's where some of this is coming from.
Yeah.
This is an old contract. This is not something they just whipped up brand new.
No, probably not.
Because all the dates in it say 2013.
13, right.
Yeah, I think it's something they just brought up.
Yeah.
It's not often that I will quote Nancy Reagan, but in this particular case, I will just say no.
I don't feel, my own feeling is I don't feel we should pay for this, and I feel that Ashfield shouldn't even be represented down there because they have nothing to do with it. You sit there and you listen to them, and all they're looking for is Ashfield to pay half of what the rest of us, 5,000 to 6,000 would pay. Nobody else. It's just those, what they call Hilltown Group.
Well, thanks for bringing that to our
I bet
attention.
at some time they'll be back to talk to us about it
That's the way I feel.
again.
You have something else for us, Doug?
No,
May I just clarify, Were you asking the board a while back, did appoint Doug to sit there and, do I understand you're saying anything?
Well, what I would like to do is have a board
Thank you.
say that we wouldn't be represented and that we would not be paying for that. That's what I'd like to see done. Because I don't feel there's any reason for us to be in there.
Well, if you don't go to any more of the meetings, they don't need to ask you. But I'll see Bernie. I'll see Bernie, and I will, just to try to get a better understanding. But we pay ours. We belong to Franklin County.
And I'd like to update you on
Yes.
the increased coverage. As of last time we met, we finally we have now received the equipment that we were waiting for from Berkshire County. The radios, power supplies, channels, master, whatever it was. So what was left, now that we had that, was to get permission to use the tower, which is owned by Northeast Computer, and to use the building, rack space in the building, which is owned by state police. We wrote to state police, Captain Sprague, who's in charge of this project out here. He brought it to his committee, which said, go ahead. Question was there room? So there was a meeting set up which took place on Friday at the tower in Plainfield. We had...
Now, where is that tower?
All right, if you...
That's the fire station.
Past the fire station, there's a dead-end road.
Yep.
Okay, you continue out the dead-end road, and after it dead ends, you continue going.
Out into the Holly State Forest.
Right, well,
That's pretty close.
under the power lines, and right there is the tower with the building. There's a little cul-de-sac out there, and that's where the tower is.
Well, we go up the street, right, you get to the center of town,
You
take
take
a
a
right,
right,
and then you go straight out.
straight out.
Right behind Couson's old place.
Right behind Couson's, okay.
Okay.
Now you
All right, so you go out, basically out into the whatever,
Yep.
and you find the tower in the building. It's a brand new building. So I was met there with Bruce Belleville, who was our system manager, Tracy Rogers, who was a staff member at the Council of Governments, and Ken
Franklin
Short,
County Council though.
Franklin County Council of Governments. Ken Short, who is the electronics guru who keeps the state police and the dispatch center going, and another technical guy from one of the radio companies that maintains that location. We went into the building, there was more than enough rack space. We can put it anywhere. And there is room on the tower, because what we're talking about are 2 whip antennas, no microwave. The backhaul, which is the route that takes it from the tower back to Shelby Control, is up for grabs. They're not sure what they're going to do. They mentioned going through Peru, and I'm not sure if they were talking about the town or the country, but they have some route figured out if they can get the signal back to Shelby Control. And in fact, they have a piece of equipment there which supplies the signal which we needed, which we thought would require a $6,000 piece of equipment, but we can use theirs. So the budget for the whole project dropped by $6,000 during the visit. The work that needs to be done is Northeast Utilities may, we don't know yet, may insist on what they call a structural analysis of the tower, which is an engineering company saying yes, the tower will withstand the weight of these antennas and cables, etc. Some electrical outlets have to be installed near the rack where the equipment is going. So there's room in the fuse box, they just have to run a piece of conduit.
So what's it do for us?
So what it does for us is that what I will need from you, and I'm not asking for it yet, because I want to get a budget, total budget for this thing. But my guess is that the town will be asked to pay for the structural analysis if it's needed, the installation of the outlets, and the installation of the equipment. I don't think there's any equipment that needs to be bought. If that's the case, then it certainly comes in under the $12,000 that the fire department already has. It's moving forward. State police is now saying,
Where do we have that $12,000?
Narrow band.
The narrow band mandate, okay.
yeah,
We encumbered that specifically for this purpose.
yeah, and the
And
narrow
originally
band
appropriated
was already
for this
done,
purpose.
But we have,
but you have the money.
sounds like a good excuse.
So call it radio money. The coverage maps that we had done cover the area that needs reception. So at this point, we are going back to Northeast Utilities. We, basically got the go-ahead from state police. We're going to Northeast Utilities. I suspect the letter's already been written. We're going to find out. They initially thought that we needed microwave dishes up on the tower, and we don't. So they may not ask for the structural analysis. But we'll find that out probably this week sometime. And then once we have that, we have permission to use the building, get permission to use the tower, which I don't think is going to be a problem, then we can go ahead and do the work.
Is it gonna, I can understand the cost of setting it up. Is it gonna increase our yearly operating costs significantly?
No, based on our population. It will have no effect on the annual assessment.
So there's a plan,
There's a plan.
and that'll take care of the southwest corner that we have the difficulty.
Right.
It doesn't do anything for Apple Valley.
No,
Does it set us in any kind of position to help with Apple Valley?
no.
Not that we can bounce off of that antenna.
It doesn't see anything in that with that. I mean,
Just doesn't see it.
it doesn't see it. Apple Valley is the same problem as,
Would it see Hollow Road? Would it see?
yeah,
Would it see?
help over.
I think it's just when you drop it down on it.
It's
So to get anything to Apple Valley, you would probably need to go
a tower.
a tower like at Holly and Brown Road.
You probably want to get as high as you can get, whatever ridge is around there on either side of that.
That's pretty high.
Yeah,
Huh? That's pretty high right there.
yeah, it could be.
I know a family that has an apple orchard stuck in the woods there.
And I know that, and,
That's why I said it.
That's right.
When he watches the video.
He goes back, right. Matter of fact, I was at that apple orchard the other day looking around to see where I would put a tower if I had one. But a new tower is beyond anybody's budget. The Homeland Security budget has been dropping every year, and the Interops Committee, which is the one that would have the money for this, is only doing multi-town fixes. Now, this would help both Ashfield and Buckland, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I don't know what we're going to ever be able to do there. I was able to get reception in and around the orchard.
The Holly Road.
The Clark Road orchard. But Highland couldn't. I had a portable, and I was able to reach out and control. But I had a relay to the ambulance. But anyway, it's a problem. I mean, it's a real problem out there, and I'm afraid that the cost to fix it is going to be staggering. Putting up a tower, building a building, putting all that stuff in is $250,000, $300,000. I mean, the cost of the playing field tower is 10 to 15 grand. You know, the other thing is
How much of Buckland is
Pleasant Road,
black?
Pleasant Road, in that area.
Point of the school there, right on.
Bigger.
From Ashfield to the school, it's the dead area.
Supposedly there's a cell phone tower going to go in up on Orchid Hill, I think, in Buckland.
There's all kinds of, one of the things that's beginning to happen is that internet service providers are beginning to request space on towers all over the place. Council of Governments has had a request for space on Shelburne Mountain, which is one of the towers that we own. And as a matter of fact, next week we're meeting talking about a policy, trying to come up with a policy for who we let in and who we don't. Part of the problem there is, in many cases, we share space with state police. This is emergency communications. You don't want anybody coming in and out. You want to keep pretty close, secure control.
I just gotta believe it's just not appropriate to hang an antenna off a high tension tower.
It's something that seems obvious. Part of the problem is you gotta get close to those wires. That's not something you take lightly. And for whatever reason, I'm sure
I don't have to get close.
you know, they just aren't. But there are other towers that are in planning.
Well, I think it's great. I think if you can, if that could be done in a year's time, so we had the coverage and
At this point, it's going to be,
corner, that would be.
at this point, it's going to be well under a year. I won't make any other.
So we shouldn't spend that money on anything else.
No. No. And I would not.
How soon before you'll have a number for us if we need to add to it?
I'm hoping in about a week.
Be looking forward to it.
I mean, I wrote the letter specifying what I needed to know to the council on Friday. You know, how much for the electrical, how much for the installation, how much for the, and I said even estimates would be fine. Just, you know, give me ballparks and we're gonna hammer it down as we get closer. The committee itself does not have the money to do this. What Sunderland, we put up a separate radio site. Sunderland bought the equipment and then deeded it to the council. Same thing in Buckland, they repeated. They bought it, we put it in, we own it, we maintain it. So one of the things we try to insist on is that we maintain ownership of all of the equipment, even if it's bought by somebody else, so that we maintain it. We don't want to be responsible for somebody else's equipment.
Well, I appreciate the work that's being done.
Go on.
I would encourage it, and not to drag on this discussion any further, but just because my wife's not around, so I was thinking maybe I could have the last word, is that if you can think, when you're at some of these meetings, to have some of these folks on these committees and the discussion about the radios and so forth, think outside the box on how everything can work smoothly together. I just get this vision when you come in here and you start talking to me about the radios. I get a vision of a bunch of dogs going around marking their territory. And I think there's a lot of that instead of just figuring out how to get it done.
Not really.
Well,
I
it
mean,
seems like maybe
that
that's,
is true.
maybe that's the only time that I get to hear about it, when you come in.
Well, I will tell you that it is true in counties outside of Franklin. But Franklin has one owner, one operator, a dispatch center that handles the entire county.
The whole damn county.
The whole ball of wax is a good working relationship between the council of governments and the state police dispatch center. All the places around us have multiple agencies, multiple stuff trying to make it work. And we basically started over, built it up, and it's operating the way it should operate. So
Our issue is that we're on a border.
right. And we're on the border with a county that hasn't gotten it together yet.
Does that,
That's a problem with them, because the state police are saying to them, but they're not, right now, the state police are maintaining the equipment. And the state police is saying, no more. They'll do maintaining their show and know how to control, but outside of that, that's where the problem is.
That's kind of understandable.
Yeah.
does Apple Valley have cell phone service?
No.
You
Well, I asked.
can speak clearer than that.
It's just, on the first floor of my house, it says no service. If I go to the second floor, it works. So
Well,
that's why I was asking, because
Well, all I can tell you is that if the people in Apple Valley went to the second floor of your house, they probably would get it.
No, I didn't. That wasn't the point. Maybe I'm reaching downhill.
Well, it's amazing right here that you can get service on Main Street, standing in one location. And
Right.
You don't only have
If
to.
I walk to the end of my driveway,
Yeah, because if you go up a little bit on
Yeah.
112, where
I used to get service more, but then I sold the hearse.
If you put my phone in the kitchen window at a certain angle, I can get my email.
Does the town eventually need to look at cell phone service, just like they're looking at having internet available
Well,
for everybody?
Remember that it's very expensive to put up a tower, very expensive to put that equipment in and maintain it. For the phone company to want to do that, they're going to want to see some way of getting their money back. So that they are interested in covering 91, 9, 2. I don't think they could care less about the 116 and 112. Nobody's going to buy or change services because they have a dropout in Ashfield. So the fact that we don't have service, just to say to somebody, well, you can put up a tower, they're not making any money. They are, a commercial enterprise. It's the same reason we don't have cable. They won't make
Well, I'm
money.
not sure that's true, Bill, because there is a company that's been working to try and get a lease for land to put a tower in. First they tried Townsley's at Shangri-La, and now they're working, last I knew they were working with Cole and Scott to put one.
Find out if they actually have a phone company that's willing to put up equipment. Tower is one thing. Equipment and somebody to pay for it is something
This
else.
is a big company. I can't believe they're gonna put up a tower without some assurance they're gonna have
SBC.
somebody to,
SBC was what
Pay
they
for
put
it.
on Peter Hill and stuff.
All right, well, that's beyond our.
So, Del, what does that do for you when you have to go to Apple Valley? If there's no cell phone service, then the radios don't work. How are we communicating with people in Apple Valley?
Not very well.
they come to the house and borrow a phone,
Yeah. A landline.
The old fashioned.
a landline. Yeah.
Okay.
We do,
Doesn't help you too good if you're out in the middle of the orchard somewhere,
Right.
which has been the case for a couple of helicopter evacuations in recent years, way out in the orchard.
All right, well, thanks, it's 9 o'clock. We've taken up enough of your time, or vice versa. Thank you.
Tom, can I run you about Chris? We're gonna let him know if he's still on the agenda or not.
Chris, we don't have anything back from Donna.
Great. I'm just here because the agenda said so. I knew that we probably wouldn't talk. Good night.
I'm not ignoring it. I'll have, what we'll do is, when something comes back,
Yeah.
we can have, we'll notify you when we get you on the agenda.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Sherman Falls, after fussing and fussing and fussing, what is it they want to talk to us about?
What about the services of the Greater Shelburne Falls Business Association? And I didn't,
We're going to be,
neither an email nor a voicemail.
yeah, we're going to be really busy from here on out. We may not get it on the slot.
They might have to wait until after budget.
All right. Special town meeting warrant.
Actually, I've been thinking a lot about one of these.
Go ahead.
And,
You want to start from the top?
well, no, we'll start with the one that's bothering me.
Okay, Article 8.
Article 8. The land was given to the residents of the town. I still have this thought that this really belongs at an annual town meeting. There's no money involved, and it has the biggest audience, more than a special town meeting, from what I've seen. And you've got more people there to say, yep, we were there. It's not huge in and of itself, but somehow it seems to warrant that particular avenue to me. And I know I said it once before and I didn't push too hard, but the more I was thinking about it, whereas I know the boundary things we're trying to get in place because we want to see if we can move forward in the dam and the field. And I don't believe, given our weather, that it's holding anything up if we put that at the annual town meeting, and everybody votes, and boundary, assuming that everybody agrees. I just would feel better about it being at an annual town meeting than a special town meeting where the attendance could be light. Especially since the whole donation was to the citizens of the town, the residents of the town, when it originally did that boundary.
Well, I think regardless of if it was given or if it was purchased, I mean, it's still town property.
It's true.
And I actually did see something with Nancy Garvin does research on town that made it look like it was purchased.
I think right.
That made it look like it was purchased for small amounts, I'm not sure what it was.
I think the registry of deeds says it was gifted to the residents of the town. I'm just going by that, I haven't seen anything else. Either way, it just struck me as something that probably warranted that kind of attention at an annual town meeting.
Wow, I look at it and so.
The deed? Yeah, it was written up. The word wasn't gifted, donated to the residents of the town. There was some other word, but there was no mention of money that I saw. It was donated, whatever the exact words. I printed it out at the time. I couldn't find it again in the email to you. And I don't know, it just seems, it wouldn't hurt to have it be on the annual meeting, and it's just a more public venue for that topic, with more people in the audience.
It's changing it to 84 feet, right? And
It's
Oh,
not a
there's 79, so it's 5 feet,
It's not a huge change.
right, I mean, it's 5 feet by,
Like it's
right, I mean, there's the
Oh, yeah.
record distance was 79, and it's changing it to 84,
It wasn't
so that's
based on
5.
the size, it was just the topic itself seemed to me to warrant an annual town meeting versus special town meeting because there's no urgency to it.
Well, I think there is a little urgency to Sherry and John. I think they want to do some things with that property, although they haven't come right out and said that, but I think they've got some improvements in mind. And we have invested the money in it, for Donna to do it, so I really don't see, in the past, I remember huge tracts of land that we purchased by eminent domain doing it at a special town meeting, so I guess I don't have a problem moving forward. We don't have to sign it tonight.
Right.
We're going to see, we need to sign it by next Monday or next Monday.
The
First two are sewer related. I don't think either one of us have a problem with those. All right, the third one.
That's the fire department for the big
Labor.
fire.
Labor.
It's coming from auditor.
Is that,
Money was put aside. The auditor money, we put money every year, but the idea being we'll spend it every other year.
Right. But I did check both with Joyce and with the treasurer and with our schedule for auditing. That seemed quite comfortable.
Finance committee didn't seem to have a problem with it last week when we spoke to them about it, right? Did we speak to them about taking it from audit?
I can't remember.
We did not audit 13. Right? 12.
What it was last year.
So I'm just trying to figure out, we'll have an opportunity to put more money into this budget before we have to spend it again. That's where I'm at.
I think where we were last year, if I'm going back to the budget, since we were doing an every other year budget, we felt that we had enough money set aside to do 1 year, but not 2, so we put extra money in the cover and it came in under.
And then we've got a waiver as well.
Right.
But we're going to be due again, but we have an opportunity to put more money, so if we take some out. Okay, I'm just running it through my mind here.
And as far as I'm concerned, that could come out. That could come out of any other account, so we had a better idea on something that's wrong. We're not married to it coming out of auditor. So we do have that.
$1,000 in the speed trailer that was left.
What I tried to avoid doing was having a line coming from multiple lines, just because that can get confusing with speed trailer.
Oh,
And
yeah,
enough, I
no,
would
no.
have.
It just means there's still some money there if we get to June and need to.
There'll be another $800 there.
Right.
So what do you think about that winter road to 72,600? I mean,
When we were talking, so we roughed out, we had like 31,000 that's not covered. And if 3,500 was an average, 4 storms is another $14,000. Now we're up to 45. So the real difference in there is how much more to put to it to make sure.
a little bit of my theory is if we post the 72.6 at town meeting, we can
Break it down. You can't break it up.
it's not right.
There's probably a little more there than one would guess you would need, but if you only need a couple,
Really, all
a
you
few
need,
extra storms and
all you really need is one damn good ice storm.
I mean, right away, just thinking if there were 4 storms between now and the end of snow season, we need roughly 45,000 anyway.
That would be less than 1 week.
Because we're still in February, mid-February. I remember April 1 with 2 feet of snow in my yard.
Well, right, that's what I'm
I mean, the snowstorm was 2 feet, yeah. And these piddly ones, like I said, are expensive for moving very little snow.
When's Easter this year? It's late.
About the 3rd week.
20th or something. Somewhere around there.
I'm just looking at the calendar. Yeah, Passover starts on Easter, Good Friday. Yeah, it's right around there.
Because I just know. You can track the Easter bunny.
So if you do the whole amount, and then you only use 45, you're gonna have some money left to live on. Some extra money.
I don't want.
So that's true.
I don't want
3 weeks
to
away.
Should have $72,000. But I think as far as the budget goes, if we kind of just say we've only got $250 left in free cash, it's going to be, you know, it's a nice even number to start with.
There's a lot of expenses on the table, they're big.
A lot of requests. They're not expenses, they're requests.
Okay.
The difference that may or may not have any distinction.
Okay, just the number of them are perfectly
Well, they're huge.
Well, and each one has its own share of importance.
Yeah. And then at 4,200, we beat that to death, right?
Yep.
Everybody was behind that. And then Article 8 we just discussed, and 9 and 10 have to do with.
There's no extra money once you get
So we're
there.
good. I'm good with that.
That could be scary. It could be.
Well, I think by the 10th, you're going to have a lot better handle on it than you have today.
And you can reduce it.
You know, I'd love to think that 40 would do it, but probably, I'm thinking realistically, if the gods are with us, it'll probably, you know, we might be able to get away with 50. But I think the real thing, while we're discussing it, is we've got to get off this $80,000 or $85,000 for winter road in our budget, and we need to get that up around 100, you know, 100, 110, something that's. Because I can't, I'm really surprised on that list that Tom gave us. I mean, sand is what you use the most of,
And the price was
but
down.
salt was down. Salt was down 5%. I mean, that's what.
Was it the
I
same?
had, the sand
Oh,
was
yeah, the
up
salt was
20%.
down and the sand was up.
But I don't, that doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna stay that way. Matter of fact, if you were buying salt on the open market right now, it's pretty high. They can't move it fast enough. It's the logistics. All right, so we don't have a problem with that. Well, next week when we have a full board, right?
You would be able to sign it. Do you want to take a minute or wait till next
That would
week?
give us, that would let you post it with 3 weeks' notice.
It'll give people good notice.
Do we want to send a copy based on tonight to, just to alert the finance committee what it looks like? Because they haven't seen it either. We talked, I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, no, that would be fine. I think that's a good idea.
I'll send it to them and I'll send it to town council.
Yes, we should. Although 8, 9, and 10 are.
From town council.
We're hoping it's going to change it, right? Was there? Oh, here it is, yes.
Yeah,
It's right here.
we've been communicating back and forth about 9 and 10 and maybe we may change Watson Road to 160. We're in the process of figuring it out.
Street to the light, it's Main Street to the corner.
Right, but I guess we can't, seems to feel that we can't use Main Street because that's not mentioned in the
This is the original deed.
but we can use 116. And so you also have a motion and talking points, but we can certainly wait till next week or even after that, just to figure out who made the motions, any talking points you want, finance committee recommendations.
No, thanks for doing that.
Just when you said they were thinking of doing something, I thought she was trying to preserve plants that were on the here.
I think it has to be done. I mean, nobody said anything out loud to me, but if they were looking for some extra feet to ask for a permit to do something with the garage. I know they were trying to have a long-term plan, but nobody ever mentioned anything out loud to me. Just-
Okay. That's why I thought it was not urgent.
yeah.
It was just plants.
Yeah, plants are well protected now. All right, so we have a resignation dated January 24th.
It's the one you've seen before, but the date is different. The original, we've got
I
this
guess
one.
I didn't see it before.
You did, it's from Peter Buchanan,
Yeah. I got it in my hand.
and the original, this came from town clerk, they had the original date wrong in terms of you would need to resign by this date, not the 3rd, in order for
Oh, okay.
somebody to take office on the 3rd. So she would like a revote, and then a revote.
We never voted on it.
Thank you.
Did you not vote? Okay, so
I've
we
never
first.
seen it before.
Never.
Did you not see this before? I
No.
thought I brought this before.
No.
Maybe I had it, we didn't get to it, so now.
It went
We
to
don't
the
have to
town
read-
clerk first, right?
Yep.
So it must be that kicked around with the town clerk first.
So vote to accept the resignation and instruct town clerk to put it on the ballot, put this position on the next ballot for caucus.
So May 2nd is a Friday, which is why you're saying they changed it from the 3rd, which is the day.
Well, I make a motion that we accept Peter's resignation with regret.
Second?
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 So they'll be adding something with the assessors?
All right, so we need to make a motion to direct the town clerk to add this post onto the
Caucus ballot.
It's on
caucus.
there, on this one.
Is it
Yeah, but it's for the
someone
ballot.
to fill out-
printed
for the ballot?
To fill out the rest of his term, whether it was 1 year or 2 years or whatever it was. Right. Second.
Second, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Crossed another one off the list. Oh, new business, DOT federal aid reimbursement,
Yep, just a,
right here.
no,
this is-
no, you don't have that. I've got that in here. And
Federal aid.
then you're actually going to have to come in, unless you've already done it with town clerk. Sorry, I have a paper here. Your authorized signatory on DOT so far.
We must have to sign something with the DOT. Is that,
I think you may have to have it authorized.
what are we doing? Accepting a bunch of money?
Well, preliminary too.
Please find enclosed between Massachusetts DOT and the town of Ashfield for the cost eligible damages to Pleasant Street by Tropical Storm Irene under the Federal Highway Administration Relief Program. The previous agreement expired on September 30th of 12. This is a new agreement. This agreement provides for the town of Ashfield funds not to exceed $18,724.79, which represents 80%. So this is just a new agreement.
Old storm agreement.
Should have asked Tom while he was here. Seems like Pleasant Street should be all done.
But the reimbursement, would this be?
We gotta have a new agreement just to get reimbursed even though the project's complete. Nice. Please do not date page 1 of the agreement.
They do that in Boston, or once everybody signed it, all along the way.
Have any problems with redoing this agreement so we can get $18,749.29 back?
Please sign that. Do we need to? Is that a motion? Do we need to vote?
No, I don't think so.
I don't mind.
We
Make
were
a
saying
motion.
that.
I'll make a motion.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Still the same money or is there more money?
It's the same money over and over again.
Thanks.
These are actually copies of the copies. Proof of the signatures that I just made.
Yeah, so we may have that already. I'll take a look. That's okay.
There you go. Let's get that money on the fast track before that contract expires.
In terms of budget,
Yes.
this line item here, retiree benefit health, that's used up almost 84%. We talked about this before.
And money comes in as well as goes out.
Okay. Because I was kind of going through and looking for anything that was jumping out that was too big or too small. Okay. So I thought that was.
Well, I know there's a deadline on this energy manager grant. So why don't we take care of it?
And I put these are for the chair to sign, the 2 letters that they'll need to put in the package, and I put a small package that Brian sent in each of your folders, but you also have it by email from Brian. You want to read more, but those are the 5 that what you have in your folder, are the 5 that he thought you might want to look at.
Where are we with this? What's our feeling?
It's almost ready to submit, I think.
The deadline's tomorrow, isn't it, or
Thursday.
Thursday? Well, we still got time.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot.
I'll tell you, I
Work
have,
over the weekend on it.
part of me has a real problem with adding another position in town.
Do we have a candidate even if we have the position?
We'd have to advertise and find somebody.
Yep. Finding somebody with the right skills will be the challenge.
Because it's not going to be a whole lot of hours.
One day a week.
We could borrow theirs.
Yeah. Share.
I mean, 2 towns are small, and maybe somebody, if they're doing it,
Oh, no.
skilled.
You're right.
Yeah, it might not be a bad idea to approach some other towns about sharing somebody in the future. And Buckland's a green community. Goshen is in the process of applying, I believe.
And we could also contact the FERCog. Many months ago, they were talking about some towns sharing an energy manager. They didn't get much response at that point, but in the future, they might also coordinate.
There were provisions in this grant for cooperating on it, but it looked like it was it'd be a lot bigger headache applying. You've got to coordinate everything together and do the grant. It's hard enough just doing
Well,
it for one thing.
I can't imagine that an energy manager would need to use the radio, so going across county lines wouldn't be a big problem. Two radios, right?
See, I think among the papers you have in there is a budget that will be submitted. The last 2 pages, but one, well, and the last one is the sample article for annual town meeting.
It's a substantial money.
That 92,290, is that, what does that encompass? Is that 1 day a week plus benefits or no benefits?
It's
Or?
8 hours a week, $20 an hour.
Yes.
52 weeks a year. No benefits because it's
Yeah,
8
no
hours a week.
benefits. Then some miscellaneous stuff, materials, and equipment, mileage.
There is some of that built into that.
Yep.
And there would be a first year town contribution, half of which would be in kind, I think, assisting municipal parks hours,
Yeah.
the inside database, and half would be an appropriation.
Yeah.
Paulette, what's your ideas on this?
apply and you get the grant and you've changed your mind that you don't want to, can you say no thank you? Or have we gone too far?
It's contingent on passing this article at town meeting. If we don't do that, we don't get the grant. If we don't put it up at the town meeting, we don't pass it,
So this article probably need to go on the annual town meeting?
that was my thought, you know.
That would be great if we could do it then we'd have a clearer vision of what we look like financially around the bend.
Gives us a lot of time to think about it.
So when we were talking with the finance committee, and we were discussing stipends and all, I know in my mind I was thinking along those lines, but it's not. It's a little more complicated, that a little more involved, and you're really
It's a
a
wage.
part-time person on
It's an
on
employee,
payroll.
it's a wage.
Right.
If that person was then laid off, would be liable for employment insurance and the way unemployment insurance pools work, even if they continue to work for us, but were laid off from another part-time job. They can collect, that's the only benefit that they can come up with.
Does it say in the application anywhere that the person has to be a paid employee, or could they be a contractor?
My memory of looking at question and the answers was that they were pretty clear it has to be an employee, not a contractor.
It's meant to be a position in town that
Yeah.
gets carried forward.
So the only other expense going to the 9290 is what, 5,000?
Because this person would work, we discussed with Ted in one case, space and equipment and so forth. The idea is this person would work at home. And so there'd be I guess the infrared camera they were going to donate would be part of the account, but there would be some other expenses related to that.
It's just that whenever you hire anybody, the expense is not just their $20 an hour.
Yeah, we looked at
Other parts you have to pay for besides.
right, and as I say, I think the one that could be significant is unemployment, depending on what scenario or another.
Well, 52 times 8 times 20 is 8320. And a position like that, let's just say, the benefits that you have to supply, the FICA, what's that? That's they pay half.
They pay all of it, 8 hour.
No, they pay half. We pay half.
I asked,
We must.
even at 8 hours, I asked for, okay.
But I've rounded up. So that's, call it $9,000 right there. Then you had some money in for mileage.
Yeah, there's a detailed budget that should be in there
You've got it right there.
from
Okay.
spreadsheet from Ted. This is the one I'm looking at.
That's what I'm looking
Yeah,
at.
okay. Computer, the first year he's got a computer in there. That's the biggest piece of additional expenses.
I beg your pardon?
Look, I forgot he's got a laptop computer in there the first year for equipment expense. That's the biggest piece of it. Additional expenses there.
Did they specify the equipment?
No.
That could be part of the in-kind. We have money. in IT or even that old computer line, is over $1,200. So the first year,
Obviously, one of the recurring expenses is about 3 years out. You know, when you're looking at the year, it doesn't take too long to fund. I don't think that's on speed. But we can for that.
well, the problem is you get out to year 3, and the town's portion increases tremendously, right?
Well, it's 100%.
Third year is 100%.
Right. It wasn't clear what year 2 is. They don't really say anywhere. What I did was look at, they said the maximum grant for year 1 was 50,000 and maximum for year 2 would be 35,000. So that's 70% of the first year. So I did a 70% number on year 2. But
It's a budget, you filled in the box.
yeah, it's not clear. It's not clear from their documentation what percentage they're going to get in year 2.
And that's my problem with adding a position. But if things go well and you have somebody that can help get these things,
Yeah.
you know, with the direction of the committee.
There is not a firm commitment here for additional years. Even year 2, they will not fund if the objectives aren't met by the position in the first year. As far as I can read it, there's no reason that we couldn't terminate after the first year if we weren't happy with the situation, or the second year.
They don't have a clause in there that you have to pay them back the money if you sort of stop participating in it.
Well, the contract, we haven't seen the contract. The way this works is they decide we're going to get the grant, then we get a contract we have to sign. And that's the point at which we would say forget it too. If we don't sign the contract, we're not.
There's another point.
As far as I can see, it's a year-by-year thing. We can decide either way, year by year.
Do you have any idea what's prompting them to do this, or just that
Get
people...
towns to put an energy manager in place. We wouldn't be doing any of this energy conservation stuff if we hadn't gotten the Green Communities designation on the grant to drive it. There'd be nobody doing it.
Well, correct my thinking, is that I'm thinking that there's low-hanging fruit, you know, places where we can save energy and serious amounts of money in the first wave and the second wave, however many years it takes for a wave to crest and break, right?
Yep.
But there's going to come a time where it's going to become, it should become diminishing returns very rapidly.
Yep, depends on what happens with energy prices, where that point occurs. But, you know, assuming energy prices aren't going to go up dramatically, we'll reach a point of diminishing returns. Maybe
it may be hard to find 12,000 enough projects to save enough energy to even pay the $12,000. If a position over time got so it costs that amount of money.
Well, we put in 10,000 as what we're expecting to gain. That's based on projected returns on just the projects we've gotten approval to do so far, which accounts for about 88,000 of the $140,000 grant we got. As far as I can see, the leverage for the additional projects we hope to spend the rest of that grant money on is equivalent to what we've been doing. So, you know, I can see us getting, with the initial grant money, by the time we've expended all of that, seeing savings in the range of $15,000 a year. And beyond that, if we are successful in applying for a second round of funding and doing more stuff, then we would get more beyond that. Because there is a significant amount of more stuff that's still justifiable on return on investment to do beyond what we're going to be able to do with the initial $140,000 grant.
Does the emergency manager, energy manager, excuse me, interface with the green committee?
My
or
assumption is that
eliminating?
they'd be like a member of the committees. That's the
So it
way I
doesn't
saw it
eliminate the
working.
committee?
No,
Good.
the projects are getting delayed, not getting done as quickly as they could, and not getting done at all right now, just because we don't have the bandwidth to do this stuff. Right? There's a number of things identified for the library that we want to get done that we just haven't had time to pursue. We should have gotten them going back last fall. The highway garage, we've had the audit completed since last fall. We haven't gotten anywhere with trying to get projects going with that.
Did I see something, I thought I saw something in some of the exchanges that made it sound that the volunteers would still be doing the hands-on projects rather than the energy.
Yeah, my objective is to, for $20 an hour, we're not going to get somebody with a highly skilled on contracting and high energy retrofits, and somebody like Mary who really knows the stuff. We're going to have to supply that level of skill, I think, in vetting the projects and helping to sift through them and refine them. But I'm hoping that this person can take over a lot of the reporting and a little more mundane stuff, coordinating and getting contractors in, taking care of getting them in the building and coordinating schedules and that kind of thing, where we can continue to do the higher skilled work. That's my vision for
Well, if you
the
got
work.
projects A through G, the committee's still going to be deciding that we're going to do C and G. Those
Yes.
are the ones that are the
Yep.
priority.
And doing a lot of refinement of them. And as we've gone through this, we've done a lot more refinement on what was identified in the audits. As we get into each one and look at it closer, we learn a lot new things, talking to people and investigating closer and refining what we're going to do there. And that extra effort is probably multiplying the leverage we're getting with the grant money by at least a factor of 2. Doing a much more intelligent job of getting the project defined and contracted out and implemented.
The sooner it gets done, the sooner we start getting a return.
Yep.
What was the amount that was received on that first grant?
The grant was for $141,000. We've received 50% of that is actually cash up front. The rest of that we will get in 2 installments as we have spent the money. Now we have to spend the money once we get past that first 50% before we'll get reimbursed. That's $141,000
I know it was
change.
How do we do that then if you have to spend the money before we get reimbursed?
Same way we do a lot of other things in town, like winter road maintenance. When you exceed the budget, you spend money it gets borrowed out of other places and then gets replenished when the money comes in.
Well, they gave you 70,
Yep.
right? And so you spend 30, you send in for the reimbursement for that 30, and it comes back so you can spend it again. No?
Well, we spend all that 70, and then we have to spend the next 35 or whatever it is, and then they'll send us the 35.
So we have to come up with that 35 to spend, and on like winter roads, it can't be.
Have we ever done a
Deficit.
town meeting warrant to authorize us to borrow money for that?
No.
When I talked to Laura about this, she said, "Oh, well, this is the normal way this works for grants." It's
Well,
just-
we do have a regular authorization for treasurer to borrow.
Yeah.
But-
She had no concerns. I asked her if we had to do anything. She said, "Oh, no, this is the normal process normal way it works for these kind of grants. There's nothing we have to do."
Wouldn't have to appropriate anything, you just go ahead and spend it, put it in.
That was my understanding my discussion with Laura.
What she's figuring is she's gonna borrow it under the, if it
Short-term.
needed to be borrowed at all,
Right.
but it would be authorization under
This
our,
is-
at annual town meeting, we do, to borrow short term.
Right. And give
For less than 12 months.
authorization to do it. And so does that depend on reimbursement coming in the same fiscal year or not?
I didn't get into that level of detail with Laura.
I mean, it's just something that we need to,
Yeah,
Clarify.
yeah, I'll ask that question.
I was just worried we needed a line item for it, and something
That's what I'm
just to,
saying.
yeah.
Yeah, and so it sounds like we don't, but there may be, whether it comes in the same fiscal year or not, because you have to make it up in free cash if not, so it
town meeting.
might have something to do with timing.
Do we have a town meeting, you and Ron signed that to borrow for the storm, the hurricane? They had to have a town meeting before we can be authorized to borrow that? I mean, just so when the time comes, we don't want an issue then.
Yep.
I'm hesitant,
I can tell.
but it probably would have a tremendous return. It probably has more return than the possibility. But I guess my hesitation comes from the point that it ends up being a permanent position that's going to be around forever, and if there will or won't be enough work for somebody to actually do to,
Well, what you may want to do when you make the position is that let's make sure it's got like a one-year appointment, so you can renew it from year to year, and you don't get yourself into a 5-year deal on it.
I
And
think
that way you
that's,
can stop
I think that's quite appropriate at this point.
when you need to.
That makes all kinds of sense.
Why did you look at the article? Do you think the article represents that it will go on for at least 3 years? Would they? I'm less clear from looking through it that you could do a one-year appointment, but I don't know. I just.
Guess I position the talking points as saying if this continues on into multiple years, this is the way it would work. Not saying the article isn't committing you to more than 1 year.
Right, I mean.
I mean, you can't really buy.
Right, just by being unable, being part of the budget that way.
Seems to me maybe one of the reasons to really do this is to take time, effort, and pressure off the Green Committee, because you've all been doing that, and perhaps it's getting to be not too big a task, but it's taking too much time on a regular basis.
I have to believe that sometimes the actual work isn't the problem, it's all the paperwork that goes with it.
It's a significant burden, all the reporting work that I've been doing is a significant piece of time.
So would the person in this position do that? Take that over?
That's my intention, yeah.
When are they supposed to decide, let us know if we're accepted or not? Does it say? It doesn't.
No, even if it did, I wouldn't believe it.
No, I mean, we've been there together, but
And figure out what to do.
there really is no reason to put an article on this special town meeting warrant for this.
No. No.
To tell them that we're ready.
No, I don't see any problem with positioning this as something for the annual town meeting in the application.
I make a motion that we sign the appropriate documents for the Energy Managers Grant application.
Second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. And we'll get it over. Because we know how long we'll go if he was here.
Probably an aye.
Oh, we'd be all over.
Well, and I like his point that there's a contract, so if something changes between now and then, there's a contract. One more step.
Yeah, I assume it'll work the same way the Green Community Grant did, which was, we got the grant, but then we had to wait for a contract to show up and we had to sign that before anything really happened.
Sure, it'll look just like that contract I just signed for the reimbursement. February 10th. Does the Green Community Action Committee, does it need to be larger? Does it need to be a 5-member committee, or?
If we had a couple more appropriately skilled and motivated volunteers, that would be wonderful.
My personal opinion is.
If you can volunteer a couple of people, that would be great.
They just need to be the right sort of people.
Yeah.
People we need to clone.
For the years, it's going to get harder.
Okay, get that off. Now we can talk about the budget, but it is 10 minutes of 10. So we don't have to discuss it for long. I'm not whining, I just left the house at 3:30
I understand.
this morning. Yeah, your lights were still on from the night before, Mary. So,
Did you
did
have
you have
something?
anything?
No, I had that one item that I asked you about, that I was concerned about, but I just wanted to double check we were okay on that.
Can we, are we far enough along that as a board that we can come to some, position before we get together with the finance committee on the stipends? I did get your email. Did you have that all laid out?
To show you the history. And you had mentioned something about, ending in zeros or perhaps 25, so it was increments of as opposed to 2% or something. I just went back to see the history just to get some perspective of where things had been. And some of them maybe we don't want to change.
Well, I'll tell you, you did a great job pulling this together. That's what the change was last year, was $6,300. $6,286 is what we upped those stipends.
The biggest change happened on the floor at the annual town meeting for the fire chief. So when you eliminate that, you can see the money is smaller.
Well,
And the next biggest change is with the Board of Health, and the firearms clerk was new.
right, oh, yes.
And a few extra dollars for emergency manager. So when you eliminate that, the biggest item,
Well, I guess here's
it's only
my
$1,700.
question. when you go down that list, are we in agreement that each one of those positions is a stipend compared to a wage?
We are. And as to the couple that got changed earlier, it appears to be an oversight because the budget came in that way, and I was beginning and I somehow didn't catch it. But they have, talked to Treasurer today, they have always been treated as a stipend, not a wage, not getting a wage increase, not setting up a wage increase expectation. And if the stipend is considered too low, then as last year, the committees make an adjustment in a round number that will stay.
And
Paulette?
there's a couple that were exceptions to that looked like it was animal control.
It was
the
animal
fire chief that were treated, and I know even it is a wage, so the 2% that he adds on to the money that are paid to the volunteer firefighters, that goes up by 2%. That's not, I'm just thinking out loud.
They're on call and they are paid a wage actually. Right. So, but the stipends, as I say, I think the animal control officer happened because it got onto the budget pull it off.
No, but historically, it has changed with 2% for the last couple of years.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's just, I think, since it got by that first time a couple of years ago. Which was my error.
So are you saying, Paulette, on that list you would agree that those are all stipends except maybe animal control? See, my idea of a stipend is you change it after a period of time, but most of the time it's just a token of thanks for the community, for your doing this as part of the community.
Because, for one thing, if it's looked at as a wage,
well, and I'll tell you, one thing
none of it is
that
acceptable.
gets me on the whole thing is, and I don't know when it happened, is when they had to start deducting payroll taxes from
I know.
when they send them out. That burns my ass worse than a flame that high, I'm telling you.
And that was fairly new.
Was that on off over the
Fine. That's pretty mild.
So one suggestion Treasurer had was that we could, if, say, a control officer which did not have an increased stipend before, we could increase it to a round number and get it back up to that. And then, that's a stipend, not a wage. Because none of these would be adequate wages, obviously.
Yeah, I really think the way I'm seeing the budget, we're gonna have to make some painful decisions before we get that far. But I just don't believe that last year we were in a very good position and it was a good year to make these adjustments. And I'm not comfortable with increasing any, as far as animal control, I would consider that a stipend and I would just call it $18.50
I think
move
the
on.
desire there is to try to get that to a round number like the stipends, and then stipends are all handled the same way, which is what it should be.
But I was hoping before we met with the, and maybe it's not ready for us to decide that without Ron here, but if you and I could agree on it, that would be fine. But I just don't see, I don't think it's going to hurt anybody by leaving them at that fiscal year 14 level, except since we've all, we made kind of a, we couldn't leave the fiscal year 14, we had them at 1836 with them. So I'm saying on animal control, take that to 1850 we'll pretty much have everything ending in a 0, right? Everything will. And for now, until we get to the end of the budget, at least stick with those numbers for all those line items. I think the world of Dell, but after the adjustment to his last year, I certainly wouldn't want to be adjusting that again by $150.
I just think
And I
that
think-
problem in just to have something to work with.
Oh, no, and I understand that, but if you were gonna follow that plan, you know, that's what it would amount to. I mean, and I
You
think,
do 2%.
and those other things are just ridiculous, you know, I mean, to me, they don't make a lot of sense, so. I think this would eliminate a great many lines that we have to, we can talk about some of the bigger stuff when we get together with the finances.
An alternative, in my mind, might be to take animal control. It's had some small changes to like 19. He's, from what I can see when we look at things, he's busy a lot being called for animals quite often. That doesn't, I'm comfortable with that. The fire chief, do you want to acknowledge something and make it $75.50 as opposed to nothing?
No, I don't want to acknowledge anything. If those are truly all stipends, they need to be treated as stipends and left in one place. And, hey, so that was it. I'm not taking anything away from Dell, but after a $3,000 adjustment last year, actually, it's a $4,500 adjustment last year. That I don't think that needs to be revisited.
And I had put, you noticed the energy manager, I was thinking stipend, I wasn't thinking salary. So that's why it's in an odd font, a question mark. Then when we were talking tonight, I realized it doesn't belong there anyway.
That's going to be eliminated, but we will have to make a line for it.
Right, it's just not stipend. We're talking.
So,
A good question, because I'll do that before the next meeting. I started to put some of the lines in. Should that just be in general government or
it should be right under
near town hall? Or
is there a line item for green communities? No.
so general government is,
I'd make it a separate line item because if we get to the point where.
oh, a separate line item, but I'm talking about the section of the budget. Like general government, I guess.
So I'll make a motion just to put it on there, see if we can come to a decision tonight, is to leave all the stipends listed on your worksheet at the fiscal year 14 level, except for animal control, and just move that from 1836 to 1850.
And have Mary incorporated that into the next spreadsheet for next week. So that gives a point. Because they went to the finance committee too, so they got the exact same thing.
Right, but they'll have the updated spreadsheet,
Right.
and they'll give us.
So I meant they got this too.
Yeah, but it'll give us a great jumping off point.
Okay. Second.
Second. Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Good. That's like 14 lines.
I thought it was for next week. I was just trying to get ahead and make sure everybody got a chance to look
No,
at it.
but it's good for us to go with a position,
Oh, okay.
because that will eliminate a lot of discussion if we're trying to find our position. Plus, if they happen to have 5 finance committee members, it could be all night and won't be. That is going to be the easiest decision we're going to make on the budget this year.
And what,
Tom Poisson wants us to remember, we're going to have to do something at the dump. He doesn't know what it is yet, but we've got to do something.
Right, we have that order from DEP.
DEP and Eric Weiss is working on that, so something.
should we put a line item on there for the dump if we haven't already? I mean,
Well,
they're
there's the
trying to
transfer station line that we would probably use.
So there's going to have to be some updates.
But I mean, for budgeting purposes, do we want a line about special dump project? Because each one of these gets to be, all these things are not
Yeah, I was
small.
going to wait and see if he rolled it into his line for the transfer station.
Well, the thing is with what he's saying is at a minimum, is that they're going to want something better for the building that houses all the electrical and all that. He's afraid that something a little heavier than a really brisk breeze, the whole thing may fall over.
I guess my
If it wasn't for a good heavy wood stove in there, it might have blown over already.
So transfer station
Improvements.
improvements, right? Because we don't really want to put it up with the capital funds. Right? Just-
And in terms of mail, we had that from Ron, which is this week, Thursday. The Vermont school one came out. And then there was this Mass Municipal breakfast that came around.
Yeah, nothing local.
Irving's the closest.
Here, I've got a conflict
With
on our meeting for Monday, the 24th. I can't be there. And that's a select board meeting.
Right.
Now,
17 is with finance.
I would not have any problem changing that to the 26th, to go to Wednesday.
Who's the 26th?
It's just the way my budget's falling, my time's falling.
Off the top of my head, I don't see anything. Can I send you an email tomorrow?
Or we can even discuss it, next week.
We want to see if he's got something.
You ladies, be
That's
all right
fine.
with the 26th if we
That's
let you know ahead of time?
Yep.
Huh?
We're just saying over that, yeah.
Just looking down through to see if I have any other, I don't, everything else on Monday.
So, Paulette, you referred to the budget meeting Wednesday night for the Mohawk budget meeting, is that what you were talking
Well,
about?
there was the most.
I sent out something from Judy Willis today.
Right.
I don't know
Oh,
if
yeah.
you got to see
Right.
it, but there's the budget meeting Wednesday night and a letter from the superintendent.
Is it this Wednesday night?
I thought it was this Wednesday.
Or is it next?
When is February? Well, let's see, the budget subcommittee, I would have to, I was thinking it was this Wednesday, I have it on my calendar for this
On
Wednesday.
February 20, oh, they voted on,
Why did I think it was next?
I don't have it for next week, I do have Mohawk budget 7, and the finance committee has posted their meeting for 7 at Mohawk this coming
The
Wednesday.
12th?
Yes.
They posted it together? Oh.
it's kind of the last line on the letter. I also invite you to attend the upcoming budget subcommittee and full school committee
Oh, there
meetings
it
on
is.
February 12th.
Thank you.
And then the following Wednesday, the 19th, is the COG Selectboard Essentials on Finance. That's budgeting.
The 19th.
That's the 19th. That's 7.
Are you sending them a list per chance, or do I send them myself to all the town?
Yeah, I sent it out to everyone and said each reply individually. So,
Okay.
and you should have that email. Do you want to send it again?
No, that's okay, I remember seeing it, I just,
Yeah.
sometimes you've done a.
Sometimes I have, and this time I just
That's okay.
suggested.
I can make the 19th.
What do we have?
Other
I'm just running down through here quickly. I was wondering, what do we have for expenses in fiscal 14 that we wouldn't expect to have in 15? I guess it would all be in debt.
Well, I've already taken out town common and what was the other one? Highway truck?
Highway truck, that was the last payment on that, right?
Yep. So as you can see, I put them in so you can see what last year's appropriations were, but there's nothing for those lines and there won't be.
And town common was not a,
That was
debt
not debt
excluded.
excluded,
That
no.
was not debt excluded.
I don't know if it's on that spreadsheet, but what did we appropriate? 12,000 for the speed trail, or 10,000, or whatever we did? And we did it at a special town meeting as opposed to
Oh, I-
annual, so it's not a huge chunk, but it's not small either.
Yeah, I don't even have it written down here.
Yeah,
I think it was $10,000.
Oh, that's because it's limited.
Right, it was encumbered into this
Thank
year.
you.
So that's why I don't have that with me, but
Yeah.
bring
I
the
think it was
bigger
in that
book.
list.
It could comment, talking about debt, so you'll notice for the first time at the very top of the budget, it says green roof capital. DOR now wants those two items broken out, the old capital and the new capital. So last year it was all rolled into capital. This year it's separated.
And say, I don't have that one in front of me, but which two capitals for?
Sorry, it's under the school.
Oh, okay.
So
The
last
two-
year, both the green roof and the old capital were together. DOR wanted to see it broken out this year, so.
Well, what about on ours? Do they need some kind of special designation that it's got to be printed in pink or green or?
So far, no, not yet.
Town common maintenance, we put $2,500 into it.
That'll be in the spring.
It's just whether we think that amount or smaller amount, we need to continue for the next,
I think we're going to need
Some
something, but
ongoing something,
but
right.
probably less than that. I
Right.
think if we can get caught up a little bit,
we're just looking.
at least
to
get
see
some
where there
line
was some-
up there.
No, I may not have town common maintenance on here. We did that.
It's
as
on that
special.
spreadsheet, yes, we did. Well, no, we added that, yeah. We carried it forward.
It
We
was,
carried it forward.
So it is on the budget spreadsheet. I put this on.
Hope that $5 million in valuation comes back. There won't be much relief to the tax rate if it doesn't.
I don't think town common maintenance is in the budget worksheet, it's on the expense report. Should I put it in FY15?
Not yet,
Why?
because we may not spend the whole 25. I mean, it's something we can talk about, you know, we're polishing the doorknobs.
No, but it's nice to add all those little line items so you don't forget about them, and if you don't want it, you can draw a line around and throw it away after.
That's fine.
Well,
It's easy to
I'll
forget.
keep a marked up copy with questions to keep asking.
You can, and that's fine. I mean, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
It gets it out with the
Yeah.
finance committee too, because they're not here hearing the conversations.
But we could have that next year. We were making so many changes to this, and
Do you have a marked up copy there so you can talk about everything that we're... I mean, it's just... I guess the thing that, you know, there's the lake dam, the retaining wall.
may I ask a question about those lines? We do have the lake dam maintenance and retention wall. At the last meeting, it was directed to put in lake dam study and retention wall repair as opposed to these lines, changing these lines, adding new lines, and leaving the
Well,
old
we're talking
lines.
about the study for the dam. I mean,
Right, but we already have 2 lines here. I'm just not clear if we need 4 lines.
But there's also the study for the field.
that's what gets me. Is the study and all.
So maybe for lake dam maintenance, I'll just change that to lake dam maintenance study.
Yeah, just put / study, huh?
And, yeah, thank you. That way we can lots of names.
Maybe do it to both of them then.
Yeah.
Maintenance / study, repair / study. Then you can move the money in either direction, whether it's for the study or for the actual repair.
I think that's a good way to handle it for now.
2 less lines.
So those are the only 2 things that come out of our debt portion, is we don't have any more town common in the highway truck.
That's right,
But we will have another payment on the fire truck.
that's right.
What did we vote, to pay that over 2 years?
Yes.
If perchance the grader did not get here till July,
Yeah.
do we just keep carrying that money until we actually
Yeah.
expend it?
We
Then
would encumber it
and just keep moving.
because it was voted for a specific purpose.
But isn't it there as a larger amount than what we need? If I'm not mistaken, so what do we do? with it?
No, we're gonna spend all the cash when we borrow less.
Okay.
Hopefully we can have that paid off in a couple of years. Maybe we're paying some of this stuff off too fast.
If we're gonna need a double truck, do we want to do that different if we had the option with the grader? If we're looking at it this year and next year and saying, you know, cash only moves us so many directions?
So we'll have to pay that actually half of it or whatever we decide.
No, but I mean, if we're also looking at a dump truck, are we better off having the bigger loan and not spending all that cash? Given we also want, and the dump truck is
Well, we were pretty much committed to that, right? We had a long discussion on it, we had the finance committee, and we voted and authorized the treasurer when the grader showed up to borrow.
Just did that.
I don't know, I just, the only thing that I wonder is, I don't think we're wrong by trying to pay it off as fast as we can pay it off, but it does have accelerated effect that shows up in the tax rate. You know, as you're pushing to get through it, but I think part of the reason of that is we see the next thing that we have to tackle right behind it.
But so we have the whole 88 right now.
Because for me,
And the
it was,
FY15 budget.
The entire
The
88.
entire 88, because it's 1 year
Yeah, so
Now,
we may decide.
We did discuss at the time, we could decide to roll it over, but at the moment, that's in there.
it would be nice if we didn't have multiples of these all in it. If they were to be staged, so one's coming off and one's going on, would be much nicer than when you got 2 or 3 all
Well, you
stepped
get,
up.
see, the 88 works, right? Because you're not gonna have the 30 from the town common, and you're not gonna have the $50,000 for the highway truck. So if you have those coming off and the grader going on,
Close to net zero change.
it would be close to net zero. The thing is, what's the next thing you're gonna add and how fast are you gonna add it? Right?
Yeah, because
Or how
You
much
don't-
are you gonna,
how many,
or how much are you gonna be able to get off the levy? And I can't answer that. I can't answer it until we can move a lot further down the line.
I'm just always thinking about what it's doing in terms of people paying taxes.
I mean, I don't see how. I haven't put too fine a point to it yet, but I don't see how we're going to proceed with that Lake Dam study without borrowing that too. Unless we take it out of stabilization. I would have a really difficult time voting for that. And I'm curious to hear what the finance committee's working on a financial kind of just a policy of how they feel the finances, what the finances in town should reflect. So I'm curious to hear what that looks like. I don't know how close they are to finishing that, but I think it would be probably. It's a lot more fun managing the cash than it is than managing the debt. It's much different than home.
You said you've been up at 3:30, since 3:30. Would you like me to make a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, I'm pretty much topped out. I mean, I'm awake.
I don't want to stop you, you're on a roll here, but
Well, no, but I think that those are the things I think about. Rest is how that's all going to work, and I'm not.
And you can see that there are a lot of, I put in the highway numbers just as from last year, just to show without those new year numbers, we're still getting pretty close. And there's some others that are.
So we'll have plenty of time to work with it, but if we buy a truck, we have to borrow for that. And I think you have to borrow for a truck if you bought it in fiscal 15 or fiscal 16 or fiscal 17. I think you're still going to have to borrow. If the tax rate and the tax bill is a concern, which it should be. I'm all about that. And with money being so cheap, we can have an effect of spreading that out a little bit more, but you end up having so damn much spread out that you know, if you're not thinking about it, right, you can have it piled right back on quadruple. So,
It's just, I know between people who perhaps work out of town, so there's transportation, between heating your home and the taxes, and we've got a lot of interesting items that are expenses that are not just the day-to-day operating.
I'm afraid that we won't get out of, if we can get out of this dump business with the DEP for less than $50,000, I think we'll be cutting the swath off. But, hey, you know what? It's 10:25. What a good time to make a motion.
I thought I did.
Did you?
But almost.
I thought I said I make a motion to
Oh, did you?
adjourn.
Oh, second. Second.
She did, but she's
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I thought you were looking at me like I could make a motion, and I
No,
said,
I thought I did. Then you were chatting.
Yeah, she thought you did.
He was chatting. Then he just started talking.
But we're all set.
good.